Hello everybody and welcome to the 7th episode of White Line Fever Kicks. Thanks for joining us. This is the Rugby League specific edition of White Line Fever, and I'd like to welcome our guest. He is the bid chief for the Ottawa Rugby League franchise, which is hoping to move Hemel Stag's licence across the Atlantic. It's Eric Perez. How are you, Eric?
I'm great. I can barely hear you though. You're cutting out a lot.
Okay, Eric, as a rock and roll aficionado, you will appreciate this analogy. This interview will be a bit like Kiss Alive 2, or Alive 1 even, particularly Alive 1. It'll be pretty much done in the studio, so there's a bit of post-production going on. But let's start with a question about you acquiring the Hemel Stags licence. When did that happen? How did that happen? What's the story there?
Yeah, so we purchased the license. We purchased the club. I don't like to say the license. We purchased the club, Hemel Stags. And so we now own Hemel Stags. And we've put in a bid to relocate Hemel Stags to Ottawa.
Right, Eric. And when you did that, did you have reason to believe that, and are you confident that, the license is transportable?
Yeah, we're pretty confident about it. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, you think about it this way. You're taking the weakest link club in the system, and you're moving it into what's arguably the strongest infrastructure business-wise, stadium-wise, also of any club in the RFL. So we're taking the weakest link and turning it into one of the strongest links. So
right.
To me, it was always kind of a no-brainer.
Did you ask anyone at the time, be it the at the RFL or somewhere else, whether you would be allowed to do this?
Oh yeah. We definitely, they knew when we purchased the club, the reason why we purchased the club. Yeah.
I've got a question here from Chris O'Connor, who used to be on staff at the Wolfpack. He says, has any indication been given to Eric by the Super League clubs as to whether they would accept Ottawa into Super League should they get to that point in the future?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't accept Ottawa into Super League if we ended up getting there. I think it'll be some years before we're knocking on the door of Super League, but when we are knocking on the door, I'm assuming that we'll get in on merit as a member club.
Right, Eric. I noticed in some interviews you've referred to the other clubs as fellow members. Is it your understanding, because you've transported a licence, that you, unlike Catalans or Toronto or Toulouse, would have full membership privileges? You'd go to council meetings. You'd be entitled to a place in the Challenge Cup. You'd basically be treated like a UK club.
Okay, so I think we are actually a member club of the RFL as Hemel Stags, and I believe we're entitled to our membership privileges. And but depending on what the terms are of our move to Ottawa, that's still to be determined. But yeah, I mean, we are a member club, so we're entitled to vote and be part of all the activities that clubs are a part of.
Do you have any expectations as to what demands or requirements your fellow clubs will place on you and also New York in order to get this through?
When we decided to do this, and because we knew that it was a better business case for us to move to Ottawa than to stay in Hemel. When we decided to do this, we knew off the bat that we would have to pay for all the clubs. It should cost nothing for the clubs to come over to Canada to play us. So we'll pay for all the transportation, accommodations, and food costs while the clubs are here.
Right, and to start in 2020, have you already been doing stuff in the background as far as looking for coaches, player recruitment, and that sort of stuff, or has everything been on hold, just waiting for approval?
Yeah, so we haven't done any player personnel recruitment at all, just because, anyways, you can't approach any players until June, as per RFL rules. So we aren't. To me, we aren't really behind in that area. No one can really approach until June. So we expect to have our approval long before that and be able to launch the club before that. We've been doing other things in the background, though, business-wise, especially over here in Ottawa, getting everything set up and making sure that we're able to have the infrastructure in place to hit the ground running once we do get our approval. But as far as player personnel-wise, we've made no inquiries and no moves. I can tell you, though, there will be no shortage of players that want to come over to Ottawa or to New York or to Toronto. It's an exciting opportunity, and what we offer over here is the ability to play in front of big crowds and supporters that are genuinely excited to see the game. So it's not hard to find players that want to come over here and live a little bit of a different lifestyle.
When this interview went out live, we had a special where we had it at Mascot Browns. That's they're sponsoring this program, Mascot Browns with a Z, MASCORDBROWNZ.com, for Canada national team gear. And I know, Eric, that the Wolverines are very close to your heart, and that a big part of your proposal here with Ottawa is to encourage junior development.
I created the Canada Wolverines. Like I created the Toronto Wolfpack. So yeah, of course, it's like these are my children. Wolfpack is one of my children's. My child, Wolverines are, and now Ottawa will be as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
What about a nickname for the team? I know there's a Twitter account out there now in the name of Ottawa Rugby League, and that's not you. So what's the new team going to be called?
That is a fake news account. It's not definitely a hoax. I will say this though, I think it's kind of fun that someone would do that. I wish they wouldn't pretend that they're speaking for me, but it's fun to speculate, and this is the entertainment business, so I'm not about to stop fans from having a good time, but just everyone out there should know that is not our real Twitter account, although they can definitely have fun and look at it. It just has no real information on it. Yeah, they've decided that the team is going to be called Tags, so that's an interesting thing. No, there's been no decision made on that.
And when you got involved at Hemel, had the decision for them to sit out a year already been taken?
So actually, that was my decision.
Right.
Yeah, I talked about it with Ralph Rimmer, and we decided there'd be no point in playing a lame duck season in Hemel. We were willing to play a season in Hemel. It's just better to hit the ground running with the move to Ottawa. So it didn't affect our application for relocation at all. So we just decided to not play the season.
The general public here have probably only known about this in the last couple of weeks. How long have the RFL been aware of your plans?
Oh, over a year.
And was it Hemel? Was it Hamilton at first, and then became Ottawa? And when did it become Ottawa?
It was Hamilton at the very beginning, but after some conversations with the Wolfpack and logistical issues at the stadium, we quickly pivoted to Ottawa. So it was never really Hamilton for very long. It was always Ottawa.
Eric, you're going to be presenting to the clubs and a case to relocate Hemel to Ottawa, but in the end, whose decision is it? Is it the RFL's decision, or is it the club's decision?
Yeah, so the clubs will get their say on it, so the RFL can sort of take their temperature. But at the end of the day, it is an RFL board decision whether we're allowed to relocate or not. Right,
and you mentioned the Wolfpack earlier. I guess $64 question for a lot of rugby league fans who don't get to hear from you very often is why aren't you still involved in the Wolfpack? What happened there?
What happened with the Wolfpack?
Yeah.
So it was always kind of the plan for me to seek out a next expansion team besides Toronto, because it's never going to be enough just to have Toronto. And we put that plan into action after the first season.
And all the issues we keep hearing from the lower division clubs about, we're only part-time and players have to take time off, visa issues, the fact that you don't bring any away fans. You've already been through that once, and obviously the argument that they're just going to Canada to get flogged. Do you expect all those issues to come up again once more with this process?
I just think it'll be different kinds of questions. I think they'll just want to know about what Ottawa can bring to the league specifically. I think Toronto's worked out a lot of the kinks in doing this. So the truth is, Toronto blew through League One like a hot knife through butter. In the year that I was the CEO, we actually demolished League One competitively, and it's become more competitive since moving to Championship. I don't think we're going to do quite the same thing. I think we'll take more of a measured approach and build it up because we want to build a strong foundation. So it'll take some years before we're ready to knock on the door of Super League. So I guess if that was their only question about are we going to blow through League One again, that would be my answer. Besides that, I think the concept is completely proven. Everybody at Toronto has done an unbelievable job proving the concept, and rugby league needs this. It's either grow or die at this point. So if we can't grow and open up new markets, we will continue to fall behind, and the sport will cease to exist in a professional level as we know it now, and that will be not in the too distant future. So this is a critical time for the sport, and it's a critical time to not shake our heads at people in North America willing to put money into the game, and the North American public clearly have a hunger for it. So let's get it on and popping, and then let's not lose this opportunity.
Just following on from Chris's question earlier, Super League have been pretty silent on whether they would welcome or otherwise more expansion teams into the top tier. Next year could be Toronto, London, and also Catalans. We've heard Super League clubs talk about a pie and pint index where they get hit in the hip pocket if teams don't bring enough away fans. I just wonder, do you have a guarantee that there's not going to be a glass ceiling, that if you properly qualify for promotion, then you will be allowed into Super League?
Yeah, I think they would welcome any club that brings value.
Okay.
So I think that when Toronto comes in, I'm assuming Toronto will get promoted. It's a big assumption, and that's why you play the games, because anything can happen. As we saw last year, no one would have picked London to advance in the £1 million game, but they did, and that's the magic of rugby league.
Yeah.
But let's just say Toronto gets promoted this year. The value that Toronto brings in is in the millions. It's so many more eyes, so much more media coverage, and eventually, if they want to go to some direct to consumer media platforms online, like most other sports leagues do, especially in North America, you'll see that they can bring in direct revenues on that as well. Sponsorships as well will bring in revenues. I think Super League will see from the Toronto piece that, and this is not a disrespect to the French clubs or to specifically to Catalan. The thing is, Toronto is a city of 6 million people. Perpignan is a town of 150,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Ottawa is a city of 1.5 million people. You can fit Perpignan into Ottawa 10 times. So we're talking about major markets here. So these are the kind of markets that we need and that Super League needs to thrust things forward, because relying on the Sky Television deal, which was an unbelievable deal, to rely on that continuing after 2021, I think that's a little bit naive. It's not going to continue in the same way. The only thing is, there are a lot of other players out there, especially in the digital space, that would jump on the opportunity to take over rugby league. So I think we need to create value in all the divisions. So right now, we're not really we probably won't be a factor in this upcoming television deal for Super League, but probably we might be in Super League by the time the next deal comes around, and by then we'll have been able to show our value. So I'm not really too nervous about us being able to show our value. I think there will be some type of a threshold. Not 100% sure of how many foreign teams can be in the league without bringing value. So, it's up to other clubs too to start bringing in value. It's all about return on investment right now. If you're not going to be returning on investment, then why are you involved?
With Toronto, the situation is that they aren't taking a cut of UK TV rights, but they expect the lion's share of North American TV rights when and if that comes. Where does Ottawa fit into that? Where do you stand as far as TV rights are concerned?
Yeah, I mean that remains to be determined, but I assume that that everything will be equitable amongst the clubs.
Right. Okay. Obviously, your ability to transport this license, and after a year of the club being dormant, is a huge part of what you're doing, and your confidence that you'll be able to achieve that. Can you tell us how the negotiations went, so that you came to believe that that would be possible?
Okay, I can barely hear you, but I'll try and answer what I think you're asking.
Yep.
So, yeah, the whole point of buying Hemel was to move it to Canada, and it's never really been done where a club has moved overseas. But there are many examples of clubs moving locations because they have a better business case there. For example, Crusaders, they moved from South Wales to North Wales because they had a better business case there. There are other examples in many other sports where, for example, the Winnipeg Jets, they moved to Arizona, became the Arizona Coyotes. Quebec Nordiques moved to Colorado, became the Colorado Avalanche. The New York Giants moved to San Francisco and became the San Francisco Giants in baseball. So what I'm trying to do is I'm applying that principle to rugby league and saying, okay, we've got a deadweight club like Hemel that their best value is that they produce a lot of great players. They've produced England players. They've produced, very high level Super League players. They're a nice kind of football factory down there where that produces players. That's their value. So they're going to remain in the game doing that. And what we're doing is we're taking the professional piece and we're saying, now, where can we move this so that it brings the most value to the RFL? Well, we've already got our foot in the water with Toronto, and it's unfair to leave Toronto on its own in North America and expect tons of revenue to pour in from one club. You need to make the investment in it. So Ottawa is the next logical investment.
Okay, we've got a question here from Philip Kingsland. He says, one of the crucial values of Toronto Wolfpack is the small stadium / craft beer personal experiences. Does Ottawa's 25,000 seat stadium depart from this?
It departs from it in the fact that the stadium is a lot better and a lot bigger. Besides that, though, it's a different kind of organization that we're running in Ottawa. There's a lot more sales infrastructure and we're more sales focused, and we're working with Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group, who already have an established clientele base with their 3 clubs. So that's a major advantage. Although I will say they do run their operation very similar in the fact that they do have craft beers at the stadium, and it is a party atmosphere within the stadium. It's just on a little bit of a larger scale.
Eric, is every team licence in the Rugby Football League transportable? Does every licence allow the team to sit out a year? Is it your understanding that if Wigan wanted to sit out a year and then move to another city, they could?
If they could make a business case that it would help the league for them to move, then should be allowed to do what they want with their license. However, Wigan's probably a bad example because they're one of the more established, one of the bigger clubs as far as fan base, business, history, and whatnot. Like Hemel really doesn't have that. Hemel's only been in the league since 2013. They barely have a fan base, to be honest. So, but if other clubs that have a dwindled fan base wanted to move to another location in the UK or overseas, they would have to put that business case forward. And if it was a good business move for them, then it's going to be good for the overall pie, and it should be approved.
You wouldn't have gone to this much trouble without being fairly confident that the RFL would approve this move. Do you have reason to believe that this will be approved, that it is going to be successful, or are you still on tenterhooks waiting for a decision?
I'm really confident that it'll happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Eric, can you just kind of fill us in or paint a picture about what happens now, about April, about coming back here to the UK, who's in the room, what tools do you use to illustrate your case? Can you just tell us a little bit about what it's going to be like to present your case for relocating Hemel to Ottawa to the other clubs?
Yeah, so it'll be sometime in April, and we'll make a presentation. I'll have a little video presentation to show, and then I'll just talk to my fellow members about why it's a good move to go over it. I'll field questions, and then a debate will ensue.
Right, and then it goes back to the RFL for a decision, and you expect that decision when?
I hope sometime in April.
Right, and is there a reason why it was kept under wraps until only last week? Was that by design or by accident?
No, just I'm not the kind of guy to blow things like to blow things out before they're ready. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for example, people didn't even know about Toronto until the day that we launched Toronto.
Right.
People forget we are in the entertainment industry. And you need a little bit of razzle dazzle, a bit of entertainment, a bit of anticipation. And I like to do things in a certain way to promote that, but also until it's more concrete, there's no point in putting it out there.
Right.
So it's more concrete now. There's a clear pathway to the end. So it was time to let the world know what was happening.
In conclusion, can you picture the first day, the first game? Have you sort of visualised it in your head? What does it look like?
The first game?
Yeah.
Well, it'll probably be in the UK because we'll probably play the first 2 or 3 games in the UK. We can start playing in our stadium mid to late March. So I'm hoping that it would be fun if it was against London Scholars again, the way the Toronto one was, because that was a great day out. The stadium was packed. The Scholars guys did a great job hosting it. And they're a good tough test to start out with,
Okay, to finish up, can you tell us what's your consortium? Who's in this with you?
Yeah, it's all people that I've known for 20 plus years. Yeah, no need to put that out until we get our approval, but it's all guys that I've known for 20 plus years that I'm quite close with.
Okay, Eric, that'll do us. Thanks very much for your time. On behalf of everyone who's watched this live on Facebook, who are watching it on YouTube, who've read about it, who are listening to the podcast. And I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of them wish you luck. Thanks, Eric.
Nice one, Steve. Take care.